What if I told you that the story of one of the world's oldest religions is filled with mysteries, battles, and a covenant that still shapes our world today? How did a small group of people scattered across the globe survive centuries of exile and persecution to shape the course of history? Let's uncover the secrets of Judaism. From ancient prophecies to modern-day challenges, what makes the Jewish faith so enduring? Join me as we explore the history and mysteries of Judaism. Imagine a people who survived exile, destruction, and even genocide, all while keeping a covenant with God that still influences billions of people. Let's uncover how Judaism has endured. What if I told you the key to understanding some of the world's greatest religions, ideas, and cultures starts with one ancient and enduring faith? Judaism is one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions, but what exactly do we know about its true history? Despite being the foundation for both Christianity and Islam, many remain unclear about what Jews actually believe. Why do Jews say God is one, yet his name is considered so sacred that it can't even be spoken? How did a wandering people who believed in a single God survive against overwhelming odds to become one of the most influential civilizations in history? Join us as we explore the fascinating, often mysterious, history of the Jewish people. The story of the Jews begins not with their religion, but with a covenant. The covenant was more than just a promise. It was a binding agreement between a people and a God that demanded total devotion, and who, in return, promised prosperity and a future as a holy nation. But this promise came at a cost. The land they would inherit was already occupied, and their journey to the promised land was one filled with trials, exile, and miraculous events. What makes the covenant with God so unique? And how did it shape the future of not just a religion, but an entire people? To understand the roots of Judaism, we must begin with the ancient Hebrews. The earliest mention of Israel in history dates back to the 13th century BCE, found in the Merneptah Stele, a victory inscription by the Egyptian pharaoh. It describes the destruction of Israel's people, a claim that ironically marks the first time they're mentioned in recorded history in defeat. How did this early, seemingly small group of people from the Canaanite world survive such a massive setback to eventually flourish into one of the most resilient cultures on earth? The answer lies in their mysterious faith. The Torah, the foundational text of Judaism, outlines a history of divine interventions and miraculous occurrences. The stories within the Torah are not just tales of faith. They are accounts of how a people struggled against all odds to keep their belief alive. From the covenant with Abraham to the enslavement of the Israelites in Egypt, the narrative of struggle, deliverance, and divine judgment forms the very core of Jewish identity. But it's not just the content of these stories that fascinates, it's the deeper, hidden meanings waiting to be uncovered. At the heart of Judaism lies a profound mystery: the nature of God. The God of Israel is not simply a deity among others, but the one and only, the eternal force that created the universe. The God of the Jews is not distant and remote, but one who interacts with his people. Yet, despite his closeness, his true name is never to be uttered. This is a paradox: a God who is intimately involved with his people, yet cannot be fully known. What does this say about the relationship between Jews and their deity? To understand Judaism's mystery, we must also examine its historical journey. From the patriarchs to the destruction of the first and second temples in Jerusalem, Jewish history has been marked by cycles of destruction and rebirth. These destructions were not merely physical, but spiritual trials that would shape the Jewish people's understanding of themselves and their faith. And even in the face of devastation, the Jews managed to survive, adapting and thriving across the world. How did they hold on to their identity when every external force seemed designed to erase it? This resilience of the Jewish people is not just historical, it is embedded in their faith. Judaism teaches that no matter how dire the situation, there is always a path forward. Whether through exile, persecution, or the rise and fall of empires, the Jewish faith remained unbroken. The stories of Jewish survival are not just accounts of physical endurance, but of spiritual persistence. What is it about this ancient faith that continues to give its followers strength even when all seems lost? As we dive deeper into the history of Judaism, we will uncover not just the events that shaped the Jewish people, but the mysteries that have surrounded their beliefs for thousands of years. From the mystical teachings of the Kabbalah to the unanswered questions of the afterlife, Jewish tradition is filled with layers of meaning and depth. What role does mystery play in the Jewish faith? Is it through this mystery that Jews have been able to survive and thrive against the odds? The answer may lie in the way Jews have always approached their faith, through constant questioning and seeking. Judaism is not a religion of answers, but of questions, a faith that encourages debate, discussion, and exploration. From the Talmudic debates to the questions of the prophets, Jewish thought is built upon the idea that the pursuit of truth is a lifelong journey. But this journey is not just intellectual, it is deeply personal, inviting every Jew to seek their own path. The Jewish people's story is also the story of a culture that has embraced its identity through ritual and law. From the observance of Shabbat to the dietary laws of Kashrut, Judaism is a way of life. These laws are not just rules to be followed, but acts of devotion that reinforce the bond between the Jewish people and their God. Every law, every ritual, is a way of remembering who they are, where they came from, and the promises made by their ancestors. In the end, the story of Judaism is not just about history, but about identity. It is a religion that has evolved over thousands of years, shaped by exile, war, and mystery. But through it all, one thing remains constant: the Jewish people's unwavering belief in their covenant with God. As we explore this rich and complex history, we will uncover the deep mysteries that make Judaism one of the most enduring and fascinating religions in the world today. What if I told you that the roots of Judaism are not just spiritual, but deeply embedded in ancient history, history that intertwines with the rise and fall of empires, battles fought, and kingdoms lost? But here's the catch. Much of what we think we know about Jewish history is far more complex and mysterious than most realize. The destruction of the First Temple in Jerusalem and the exile of the Jewish people did not mark the end of their story. It was merely the beginning of something much greater, something that would shape the entire course of history. When the Babylonians conquered Judah in 586 BCE, they did more than destroy a physical temple. They shattered the very foundation of Jewish society. Yet this tragedy became the very catalyst that spurred the evolution of Jewish identity. How did the Jewish people manage to retain their faith and culture in the face of such adversity? The answer lies in an unlikely place: Babylon itself. From exile, the Jewish people began a process of transformation that would forever alter the nature of their religion and their place in the world. Could you imagine living in a time when your people were forcibly scattered, your temple destroyed, and your future uncertain? In Babylon, the Jews faced just that, yet they didn't surrender. Instead, they began to adapt and innovate. They shifted their focus from temple-based worship to something far more enduring: community-based worship and study. This marked the beginning of a profound shift in how Judaism would be practiced. But how did this transformation take place? What prompted such a radical change? The Jews who were exiled to Babylon didn't just wait for their return. They became intellectuals, scribes, and scholars. The Talmud, which would later become one of the most important texts in Jewish life, began to take shape during this period. But here's the twist. The Talmud wasn't just a collection of laws and traditions. It was a living document, evolving and growing with every debate, every interpretation. Why is this so crucial to understanding Judaism? Because the Talmud represents the very essence of Jewish identity: constant questioning, constant exploration, and an unyielding search for truth. Have you ever wondered how a religion can survive without a central place of worship? After the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, this was the reality the Jewish people faced. And yet Judaism didn't just survive, it thrived. This survival is one of the most intriguing aspects of Jewish history. What was it that allowed a people scattered across the world without a homeland for nearly 2,000 years to maintain their culture, faith, and identity? The answer to that question lies in the remarkable resilience of Jewish tradition. Despite the loss of their homeland, the Jews held fast to their sacred texts, laws, and rituals. The synagogue became their place of worship, study, and community. But there was a secret to this survival, a hidden key to understanding how Judaism adapted and thrived under pressure. Could it be that Judaism's strength comes not from conquering empires, but from a quiet, steadfast devotion to learning, questioning, and evolving? Let's take a step back and consider the mysteries within the Torah itself. The Torah is not just a set of laws or a collection of stories. It is a key to understanding the very essence of Judaism. But here's where things get even more intriguing. The Torah is filled with hidden meanings, layers of interpretation, and ancient teachings that have yet to be fully understood. What if the Torah's true purpose isn't just to record history, but to guide the Jewish people through the trials and challenges of life? And what if some of its most profound secrets are still waiting to be uncovered? Take, for example, the concept of the covenant. This agreement between God and the Jewish people is one of the central pillars of Judaism, but it's far from simple. The covenant is a dynamic relationship that has evolved over time. What does it truly mean to be chosen by God? Is it a mark of favor, or is there something deeper at play? As we explore the history of the covenant, we'll uncover new insights into its mysterious nature and the profound role it continues to play in Jewish life today. Another fascinating aspect of Jewish history is the idea of survival against the odds. Time and time again, the Jewish people have faced near extinction, yet they continue to endure. From the Babylonian exile to the horrors of the Holocaust, the Jewish people have experienced some of the darkest chapters in human history. But here's the question: why did they survive when so many others have been lost to history? Could it be that there is a hidden strength within Jewish identity, a strength that comes from their deep connection to tradition, faith, and community? One of the most captivating aspects of Jewish history is its ability to reinvent itself. After the fall of the Second Temple, Judaism was forced to change in ways that no one could have predicted. With the temple gone, how did the Jewish people maintain their connection to God? The answer was a shift from physical sacrifice and ritual to spiritual devotion, study, and ethical living. This transformation didn't just ensure the survival of Judaism, it laid the groundwork for its future growth and evolution. But how did the Jews come to this realization? And how did this new path shape the future of their faith? Finally, as we look back on Jewish history, we can't ignore the profound influence Judaism has had on the world. From the rise of Christianity and Islam to the development of Western legal systems, Jewish thought and teachings have shaped civilizations for millennia. But here's the thing. Judaism isn't just a religion that influenced others. It's a religion that continues to influence the way we think, live, and understand the world. How is it possible that a small group of people scattered across the globe have left such an indelible mark on human history? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to lose everything? Your temple, your land, your way of life, and yet somehow find the strength to rebuild? The Jewish people faced this exact challenge time and time again, and each time they emerged not just surviving, but evolving into something stronger. How is this possible? How could a people who endured centuries of exile, destruction, and persecution continue to find ways to thrive and adapt? The answer lies in an unwavering commitment to their faith, their laws, and their unbreakable connection to their identity. But how did it all begin? The Babylonian exile of 586 BCE marked one of the most devastating moments in Jewish history, but it also triggered a transformation that would shape Judaism for centuries. Imagine being forcibly relocated to a foreign land, cut off from your temple and your homeland. The question then becomes, how did the Jewish people respond to this crisis? Did they simply surrender to their fate, or did they use it as an opportunity for spiritual and cultural renewal? The answer is not only surprising, but offers key insights into the enduring nature of Jewish identity. When the Jews were exiled to Babylon, their society was at a crossroads. Without a temple to worship in, and without a centralized place for their community, how could they maintain their identity as a people? The solution came through study and the preservation of their sacred texts. The development of the Talmud during this time wasn't just about recording laws, it was about creating a living, breathing framework for Jewish life that could survive no matter where they were. This shift from physical rituals to intellectual and spiritual practices was groundbreaking. But what exactly made this transformation so pivotal? Here's an interesting thought. The Talmud, this vast collection of legal discussions, debates, and teachings, became the spiritual backbone of Judaism. But it wasn't just about following rules, it was about engaging with the text, questioning it, and seeking deeper meaning. What if the very act of questioning and debating was what kept the Jewish people alive throughout centuries of exile? Could it be that their ability to adapt and reinterpret their faith through discussion and study was the secret to their survival? What does this tell us about the nature of Judaism as a religion? In fact, one of the most fascinating things about Jewish survival throughout history is that it wasn't just their physical endurance that kept them alive, it was their intellectual and spiritual adaptability. As empires rose and fell, Jews found ways to fit into new societies while maintaining their faith. But how did this work? What was it about Jewish law and tradition that allowed it to transcend borders and time periods? Could it be that their religion was built to adapt, to evolve, and to survive in ways other religions couldn't? But let's take a moment to consider the deeper, mystical aspects of Judaism. For centuries, Jewish mysticism has intrigued scholars and spiritual seekers alike. The Kabbalah, a mystical tradition within Judaism, is filled with teachings that explore the nature of God, the universe, and the soul. But here's the real question. What if these ancient teachings weren't just symbolic or metaphorical, but contained hidden knowledge that could unlock secrets about the universe itself? What if the Kabbalah offers insights into the very fabric of reality, waiting to be uncovered by those who seek? The idea that Judaism holds hidden knowledge is not as far-fetched as it might seem. Throughout Jewish history, certain teachings have been passed down through secretive traditions, only accessible to those who are initiated into the mysteries of the faith. What if these hidden teachings weren't just spiritual, but held the key to understanding life's greatest mysteries? And what if some of these secrets have been preserved through the ages, waiting for the right time to be revealed? The Jewish people's survival wasn't just about maintaining a religion, it was about maintaining a deep connection to the unknown, the sacred, and the mysterious. From the time of their exile in Babylon to the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, Jews learned to adapt by clinging to their sacred texts and rituals. But more than that, they learned to adapt by keeping a deep connection to the mysteries of their faith. Could this be the key to their continued resilience? The ability to find meaning in the unseen, to hold on to something beyond the physical world, might be the secret strength of the Jewish people. It's also worth considering the nature of Jewish belief itself. While many religions focus on faith in a higher power, Judaism has always been about action. From the commandments of the Torah to the laws of the Talmud, Judaism emphasizes living a life of purpose, guided by divine law. But what if the true meaning of these laws is not just about obedience, but about something deeper, a way of shaping the world around you to reflect divine will? Could it be that the practice of Jewish law is not just a way to honor God, but a way to shape reality itself? Now let's zoom in on a particularly fascinating aspect of Jewish history, the concept of the Messiah. Unlike many religions, Judaism has no central figure who is worshipped as divine. Instead, Jews await the coming of the Messiah, a human leader who will bring peace and redemption to the world. But why does this concept persist even today after centuries of suffering and exile? What makes the idea of a Messiah so integral to Jewish belief? And how has this concept shaped Jewish hopes, dreams, and visions for the future? Throughout Jewish history, the idea of a covenant has been central. But what does it really mean to be in covenant with God? Is it simply a contract, or is it something deeper, a spiritual bond that cannot be broken even in the face of immense suffering? The Jewish people have experienced their fair share of tragedy, but their covenant with God has always been a source of hope and strength. But what exactly is this covenant, and why does it hold such power? Could it be that the covenant is the key to understanding the endurance of the Jewish people? Take, for instance, the period of the Babylonian exile. When the first temple was destroyed and the Jews were taken captive, their world was shattered. Yet even in captivity, they found a way to preserve their identity, their faith, and their connection to God. How did they manage to do this? What kept them going when everything seemed lost? The answer lies in the way they redefined their relationship with God. No longer confined to a single location, their faith became more portable, more personal. But what does it mean for a people to reinvent their faith and identity under such dire circumstances? Perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of Jewish survival is the way their faith has adapted over time. Judaism didn't just survive the loss of the temple, it thrived in new and unexpected ways. When the temple was destroyed for the second time in 70 CE, it seemed like the end of an era. Yet the Jews did not retreat into despair. Instead, they reinvented their practice of worship, creating the synagogue as a central place for community, prayer, and study. What if this adaptability is the true strength of Judaism, an ability to grow, transform, and endure no matter the circumstances? But here's where things get even more interesting. While Judaism adapted to survive, it also held on to traditions that have remained unchanged for millennia. From the Torah to the Talmud, the core of Jewish faith is rooted in texts and laws that have been passed down through generations. Yet these texts are not static. They are living, breathing documents that have been interpreted, reinterpreted, and debated over the centuries. How does this unique approach to Scripture impact the way Jews practice their faith today? And why has this intellectual tradition been so crucial to the survival of the Jewish people? The Talmud is perhaps the best example of this intellectual tradition. It's not just a legal code, it's a conversation that spans centuries. In the Talmud, Jewish scholars engage in debates and discussions, exploring every nuance of Jewish law and ethics. But here's the intriguing part. The Talmud is never finished. It's a never-ending conversation, one that invites new generations to contribute their insights and interpretations. What if this is the key to understanding the Jewish connection to their faith? It's not about receiving a set of final answers. It's about engaging with the text, questioning, and seeking understanding. As Jews were scattered across the globe, they adapted to their new environments. Whether in Europe, the Middle East, or later in the Americas, Jewish communities found ways to thrive even when they were marginalized or persecuted. But how did they maintain their sense of identity in the face of such adversity? The answer lies in their ability to integrate their faith into every aspect of life, family, community, and even the workplace. The Jewish way of life was not confined to the synagogue. It permeated every part of their existence. Could this holistic approach to faith be the secret to their enduring strength? Consider, for example, the concept of tzedakah, charity. In Judaism, giving to those in need is not just an act of kindness, it's a religious obligation. Jews are taught to give to charity regularly, and the practice is embedded in the very fabric of Jewish life. But this goes beyond just giving money. It's about creating a culture of mutual responsibility. What if this sense of communal care is one of the reasons why Jewish communities have thrived in diaspora? In times of hardship, they band together, supporting one another and preserving their way of life. Let's not forget about the concept of the Messiah, a figure who will one day bring peace and redemption to the world. But what does this concept really mean to Jews? For some, the Messiah is a future hope, a figure who will restore Israel and bring about the perfection of the world. For others, the idea of the Messiah is more symbolic, representing a time when peace and justice will reign. But here's the intriguing question. How has this concept of the Messiah shaped Jewish history? Could it be that the hope for a future redemption has been a source of strength throughout the centuries, driving the Jewish people to persevere even in the darkest of times? One of the most captivating aspects of Jewish tradition is the way it has preserved its rituals, even in the face of exile and persecution. From the observance of the Sabbath to the celebration of Passover, Jewish rituals have remained remarkably consistent over thousands of years. But what do these rituals mean beyond the surface? Are they simply religious obligations, or do they serve as a way for Jews to connect with their history, their ancestors, and their covenant with God? Could it be that these rituals are more than just practices? They are a way for Jews to keep their identity alive, no matter where they are in the world. The survival of Judaism is not just a story of faith, it's a story of identity, culture, and history. For over 2,000 years, the Jewish people have maintained their connection to God and to one another, even when their physical homeland was taken from them. How have they done this? What has kept them united through centuries of exile, oppression, and hardship? The answer lies in the mysteries of their faith, mysteries that are still being explored, interpreted, and understood today. As we continue our journey through the history of the Jewish people, we'll uncover more of these hidden truths, revealing the depth and complexity of one of the world's most enduring religions. Have you ever wondered how a religion can thrive and evolve despite being scattered across the globe, separated by vast distances and hostile empires? Judaism has faced unimaginable trials throughout history: exile, destruction, and persecution, but it has remained one of the most enduring and resilient cultures in the world. How is it possible for a people to maintain their identity and faith even when so much of their physical world is taken from them? The answer lies not only in their history, but in the profound spiritual and intellectual practices that have allowed them to adapt and thrive. One of the most fascinating aspects of Judaism is its ability to adapt without losing its core identity. After the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, Jews found themselves without the central place of worship that had been the heart of their faith. But instead of abandoning their religion or retreating into despair, they reinvented their practice. They turned their attention inward, to the study of Torah, Talmud, and other sacred texts. This shift from temple-based worship to a focus on study and debate is one of the most crucial turning points in Jewish history. But what made this shift so vital to Jewish survival? The answer lies in the Jewish tradition of constant questioning and interpretation. Judaism is not just a religion of faith. It is a religion of intellect, of dialogue, and of debate. The Talmud, for example, is not simply a book of laws. It's a conversation that spans centuries, filled with arguments, explanations, and diverse perspectives. The very act of engaging with the text, of debating its meaning, keeps the faith alive and evolving. What if this ability to question and reinterpret is the true secret to the survival of Judaism, allowing it to adapt to every era while staying rooted in its ancient traditions? But the mysteries don't stop there. The Talmud itself is a treasure trove of hidden knowledge, offering insights not just into Jewish law, but into the nature of existence, the human soul, and the divine. Jewish mysticism, known as Kabbalah, adds another layer of intrigue to the faith. Kabbalists believe that the world is full of hidden meanings, and through deep spiritual practice and study, one can uncover the secrets of the universe. But here's the fascinating question. What if some of these ancient teachings contain wisdom that could help us understand the mysteries of the cosmos, the nature of God, and even the purpose of life itself? Could Judaism hold the key to understanding the fundamental truths of existence? As we look deeper into Jewish history, we see that the Jewish people have always faced challenges that seem insurmountable. Yet, time and time again, they have found ways to survive, adapt, and rebuild. The destruction of the First and Second Temples, the expulsion from Spain, the horrors of the Holocaust, these are just some of the tragic events that have shaped Jewish history. But through it all, the Jewish people have maintained their faith, their sense of identity, and their connection to one another. What is it about their faith that has allowed them to endure so many trials? Is it their covenant with God, or is it something else entirely? One of the most captivating aspects of Jewish tradition is the way it has preserved its rituals, even in the face of exile and persecution. From the observance of the Sabbath to the celebration of Passover, Jewish rituals have remained remarkably consistent over thousands of years. But what do these rituals mean beyond the surface? Are they simply religious obligations, or do they serve as a way for Jews to connect with their history, their ancestors, and their covenant with God? Could it be that these rituals are more than just practices? They are a way for Jews to keep their identity alive, no matter where they are in the world. The survival of Judaism is not just a story of faith. It's a story of identity, culture, and history. For over 2,000 years, the Jewish people have maintained their connection to God and to one another, even when their physical homeland was taken from them. How have they done this? What has kept them united through centuries of exile, oppression, and hardship? The answer lies in the mysteries of their faith, mysteries that are still being explored, interpreted, and understood today. As we continue our journey through the history of the Jewish people, we'll uncover more of these hidden truths, revealing the depth and complexity of one of the world's most enduring religions. Have you ever wondered how a religion can thrive and evolve despite being scattered across the globe, separated by vast distances and hostile empires? Judaism has faced unimaginable trials throughout history: exile, destruction, and persecution, but it has remained one of the most enduring and resilient cultures in the world. How is it possible for a people to maintain their identity and faith, even when so much of their physical world is taken from them? The answer lies not only in their history, but in the profound spiritual and intellectual practices that have allowed them to adapt and thrive. One of the most fascinating aspects of Judaism is its ability to adapt without losing its core identity. After the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, Jews found themselves without the central place of worship that had been the heart of their faith. But instead of abandoning their religion or retreating into despair, they reinvented their practice. They turned their attention inward to the study of Torah, Talmud, and other sacred texts. This shift from temple-based worship to a focus on study and debate is one of the most crucial turning points in Jewish history. But what made this shift so vital to Jewish survival? The answer lies in the Jewish tradition of constant questioning and interpretation. Judaism is not just a religion of faith. It is a religion of intellect, of dialogue, and of debate. The Talmud, for example, is not simply a book of laws. It's a conversation that spans centuries, filled with arguments, explanations, and diverse perspectives. The very act of engaging with the text, of debating its meaning, keeps the faith alive and evolving. What if this ability to question and reinterpret is the true secret to the survival of Judaism, allowing it to adapt to every era while staying rooted in its ancient traditions? But the mysteries don't stop there. The Talmud itself is a treasure trove of hidden knowledge, offering insights not just into Jewish law, but into the nature of existence, the human soul, and the divine. Jewish mysticism, known as Kabbalah, adds another layer of intrigue to the faith. Kabbalists believe that the world is full of hidden meanings, and through deep spiritual practice and study, one can uncover the secrets of the universe. But here's the fascinating question. What if some of these ancient teachings contain wisdom that could help us understand the mysteries of the cosmos, the nature of God, and even the purpose of life itself? Could Judaism hold the key to understanding the fundamental truths of existence? As we look deeper into Jewish history, we see that the Jewish people have always faced challenges that seem insurmountable. Yet time and time again, they have found ways to survive, adapt, and rebuild. The destruction of the First and Second Temples, the expulsion from Spain, the horrors of the Holocaust, these are just some of the tragic events that have shaped Jewish history. But through it all, the Jewish people have maintained their faith, their sense of identity, and their connection to one another. What is it about their faith that has allowed them to endure so many trials? Is it their covenant with God, or is it something else entirely? One of the most intriguing aspects of Judaism is its view of the covenant between God and the Jewish people. This covenant is not just a promise, it's a relationship, a bond that transcends time and space. But what does it mean to be in covenant with God? For Jews, it's not just about following laws or rituals. It's about living in a way that reflects their unique relationship with the divine. This relationship is not static, it's dynamic, constantly evolving as Jews seek to better understand God's will for them in the world. How does this dynamic relationship shape the way Jews live their lives, and how does it continue to influence the Jewish faith today? Let's take a closer look at the concept of the Messiah, a central figure in Jewish tradition. Unlike in Christianity, where Jesus is viewed as the Messiah, in Judaism, the Messiah is still awaited. But who is this Messiah? And what role does he play in Jewish history? The Messiah is often depicted as a human leader who will bring peace and redemption to the world, rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, and gather all the Jewish people back to the promised land. But could the Messiah be more than just a human leader? Could he represent something deeper, something more symbolic? And why does the concept of the Messiah continue to hold such significance for Jews even today? It's important to remember that Judaism is not just a religion, it's a way of life. The practices, rituals, and laws of Judaism are not meant to be mere observances. They are ways to connect with God and to live a life that is meaningful and purposeful. From the observance of Shabbat to the celebration of Passover, every aspect of Jewish life is imbued with spiritual significance. But how do these rituals and practices help Jews connect with God? And what do they reveal about the Jewish understanding of the divine? Could it be that these practices are not just rituals, but ways to bring holiness into everyday life? Consider, for example, the concept of tzedakah, charity, and justice. In Judaism, giving to those in need is not just an act of kindness, it is a religious obligation. This commitment to justice and caring for others is one of the defining characteristics of Judaism. But here's the interesting question. Why is tzedakah so central to Jewish life? Could it be that through acts of charity and justice, Jews are not only helping others, but also bringing themselves closer to God? And how does this practice of tzedakah tie into the Jewish concept of redemption and the coming of the Messiah? As we explore these themes, it becomes clear that Judaism is more than just a set of beliefs. It is a living, breathing tradition that has adapted and evolved over thousands of years. But the mystery remains. How has this faith survived so long, despite the many challenges it has faced? The answer lies in the unique relationship that Jews have with their faith, their laws, and their history. It is a faith built on questioning, studying, and seeking deeper understanding. And it is a faith that continues to inspire and challenge those who choose to engage with it. What happens when a people are scattered to the far corners of the world, forced to live under foreign rulers, yet somehow manage to retain their identity and faith? This is the story of the Jewish diaspora, a people without a homeland, yet bound together by a common belief, a shared history, and an unyielding sense of purpose. But how did the Jews manage to preserve their unique identity when their physical world seemed to be collapsing around them? What made their connection to one another and to their faith so unbreakable? The Jewish diaspora began after the fall of the Second Temple in 70 CE. The Romans, in their conquest of Jerusalem, destroyed the heart of Jewish worship and sent the Jewish people scattering across the Roman Empire. This is when the Jewish story takes a new turn. No longer could they rely on a central place of worship. But here's the fascinating part. This displacement didn't break the Jewish spirit. Instead, it led to one of the most significant shifts in Jewish practice, the rise of the synagogue and the focus on communal study. Why was this shift so critical to their survival? And how did it allow Judaism to adapt in ways that other religions couldn't? Think about this for a moment. When the Jewish people were exiled, they didn't simply wait for a return to their homeland. They took their faith with them. In every corner of the Roman Empire, from Spain to Persia, Jewish communities took root. They established synagogues, centers of learning, and places for prayer. These synagogues became not just places of worship, but hubs of Jewish life, spaces where the Torah was studied, where laws were debated, and where Jewish identity was continually reshaped. How did these communities, far from Jerusalem, manage to create such a vibrant, enduring culture? What was the secret that allowed Judaism to survive and thrive in the face of such adversity? Judaism is, at its core, a religion of learning. Unlike many other faiths, it doesn't simply rely on ritual and doctrine. Instead, it encourages its followers to engage with sacred texts, to question, to interpret, and to wrestle with meaning. This intellectual engagement became the foundation of Jewish survival in the diaspora. Through the Talmud and the Midrash, Jewish scholars were able to create a living dialogue with their sacred texts, allowing the religion to evolve with the changing circumstances of the world. What if the very act of questioning, interpreting, and debating was what made Judaism so resilient? What if the survival of Jewish identity wasn't just about faith, but about the constant evolution of ideas? But it wasn't just intellectual engagement that allowed Jews to survive the diaspora. It was also their ability to build tight-knit communities. Jewish communities, whether in Baghdad, Cairo, or later in Eastern Europe, were remarkably self-sufficient. They established schools, hospitals, and communal organizations that supported one another in times of need. But here's the intriguing question. How did the Jews manage to maintain such strong communal ties, even in the face of persecution? Could it be that the very structure of Jewish community, based on shared ritual, learning, and mutual responsibility, was the key to their survival? In the diaspora, Jews faced the reality of being a minority in foreign lands. In some places, they thrived. In others, they faced discrimination, forced conversions, and pogroms. Yet no matter where they lived, Jews found ways to adapt to their environment while preserving their faith. But how did they navigate this delicate balance between assimilation and maintaining their unique identity? The answer lies in their ability to adapt their practices while holding firm to their core beliefs. Could it be that their ability to balance integration with separation was what allowed them to endure in so many different cultures and societies? One of the most profound aspects of the Jewish experience in the diaspora was their ability to hold on to the hope of return. The concept of tshuva, return, became central to Jewish identity, not just as a physical return to the land of Israel, but as a spiritual return to the ways of God. This concept of return was not just about geography, it was about a continuous journey back to God's will, to the Torah, and to the covenant. But here's the question. Why did the Jewish people, after so many years of exile, continue to believe in a physical return to the Promised Land? What does this longing for return say about the nature of Jewish identity and faith? This longing for return came to a head in the 20th century with the creation of the State of Israel. But what does Israel mean to the Jewish people? Is it simply a political entity, or is it the fulfillment of a divine promise? For many Jews, the establishment of Israel marked the end of a 2,000-year exile and the beginning of a new chapter in Jewish history. But not everyone sees Israel in the same way. What role does the idea of the Jewish homeland play in modern Judaism? And how does it impact the way Jews see their identity today? Let's pause for a moment to explore one of the most powerful forces in Jewish history, the Holocaust. This horrific event not only decimated Jewish populations, but also left deep scars on Jewish consciousness. How did the Holocaust shape modern Jewish identity, and how did it affect the Jewish understanding of God and faith? For many Jews, the Holocaust was a profound test of their belief. Could a good God allow such suffering? But even in the face of such unimaginable tragedy, Jews continued to find ways to preserve their culture and faith. Why did their faith not break, even under such crushing pressure? Despite the trauma of the Holocaust, the Jewish people demonstrated an incredible resilience. They rebuilt their communities, revived their religious practices, and in many cases found new ways to engage with the world. The survival of Judaism, then, isn't just about enduring hardship, it's about the refusal to let go of their sacred identity. What does this resilience tell us about the core of Jewish belief? Could it be that the Jewish people's survival is a testament to their unbreakable bond with their history, their God, and each other? The modern Jewish experience is shaped not just by the past, but by the future. As Jews continue to live around the world, the question remains, how will Judaism continue to evolve? Will it remain rooted in its ancient traditions, or will it adapt to the changing world in ways we cannot yet foresee? One thing is clear. Judaism is a religion that has always adapted, always evolved, and always endured. As we look to the future, we can be sure of one thing. The story of the Jewish people is far from over. Have you ever wondered how a single idea could spark a global movement? Judaism, a religion that started with a covenant made between God and a small tribe, has influenced the entire world. From its teachings, Christianity and Islam emerged, shaping the history of the Western and Middle Eastern worlds. But how did this small, ancient faith become the foundation for two of the largest religions in the world? The answer lies in its core teachings, its survival through millennia of adversity, and the ways in which Jewish ideas have been passed down, interpreted, and adopted by others. But what makes Judaism's influence so powerful? At the heart of Judaism is a revolutionary idea, monotheism. The belief in one all-powerful God who created the universe and governs it, who is both transcendent and immanent, has shaped the very way humanity understands its place in the cosmos. But here's the twist. This concept of God is not just theoretical, it is practical, ethical, and relational. Unlike many ancient religions that saw gods as distant or capricious, Judaism's God is a moral being who cares about justice, mercy, and righteousness. But what makes this concept of God so unique, and why did it resonate so deeply with other cultures? This idea of a moral, covenantal God didn't just stay with the Jews. Over time, it spread through the Middle East, Europe, and beyond, evolving into the foundation of two of the world's largest religions. Christianity, and Islam. But how did this happen? Christianity, which emerged from Judaism, took the idea of the Messiah and the concept of salvation and spread it to the Gentiles. Islam, similarly, adopted the Jewish belief in one God and integrated it into its own teachings. What does this tell us about the universal appeal of Jewish ideas? And why did these ideas, which started with one small people in the ancient Near East, grow to shape the entire world? Let's dive into the concept of the Messiah, which has been one of the most influential ideas in both Jewish and Christian thought. In Judaism, the Messiah is not a divine figure, but a human leader who will bring peace and redemption to the world. For Christians, this figure became Jesus Christ, whom they believe to be the Son of God, the Savior of humanity. The Jewish concept of the Messiah, however, remains unfulfilled. But what if the Jewish view of the Messiah holds the key to understanding the messianic ideas that shaped both Christianity and Islam? Could it be that the Jewish Messiah represents an enduring hope for human redemption, a concept that transcends any single religion? Now let's turn our attention to the fascinating and sometimes controversial relationship between Judaism and Christianity. Christianity, which emerged from Jewish roots, shares many of the same foundational texts and ideas. Yet over time, the two faiths diverged in profound ways. Christians view Jesus as the Messiah, the Son of God, while Jews reject this claim and await a different kind of Messiah. This divergence is more than theological. It's cultural, political, and deeply personal. But here's a thought-provoking question. What does this rift between Judaism and Christianity tell us about the nature of religious identity and the boundaries of belief? In fact, this division between Judaism and Christianity is just one example of how Jewish ideas have influenced the world and been contested, reinterpreted, and even rejected in certain contexts. The concept of the chosen people, for example, has been misunderstood and misused throughout history, particularly in Christian theology, where it has been used to justify supersessionism, the idea that Christianity has replaced Judaism as the true people of God. But how do Jews understand this concept of being chosen, and what role does it play in their faith today? What does it mean to be the chosen people, and how does this idea shape their view of the world? One of the most misunderstood aspects of Judaism is the concept of chosenness. Many people assume it implies that Jews are superior to others, but that's far from the truth. Being chosen in Jewish thought means taking on a heavy responsibility, living according to God's commandments and being a light unto the nations. The idea is not about privilege, it's about duty. But how does this concept of chosenness shape Jewish identity, especially in a world where many people view religious identity as a matter of personal choice rather than divine selection? Let's also consider the ethical teachings of Judaism, which have had an enormous influence on Western thought. From the Ten Commandments to the concept of justice, fairness, and charity, Jewish ethics have shaped everything from legal systems to social movements. But what makes Jewish ethics so compelling? It's not just about rules, it's about relationships. Judaism teaches that every action we take in the world must reflect our relationship with God, with each other, and with the world itself. How does this holistic approach to ethics differ from other systems of morality, and what makes it so enduring? The influence of Judaism on Western legal traditions is profound. The concept of justice in Judaism is rooted in the idea of tzedakah, righteousness or charity, and it goes beyond the simple idea of giving to those in need. It's about establishing systems that create fairness, equality, and justice in society. Jewish laws emphasize the dignity of every person, regardless of their social status, and promote social responsibility. How did these teachings shape the development of Western legal systems? And what can we learn from Jewish ethical traditions that might help us build a more just society today? Another fascinating dimension of Jewish influence is in the realm of mysticism. Kabbalah, the mystical tradition within Judaism, explores the hidden dimensions of reality and the nature of the divine. But what exactly is Kabbalah, and why has it attracted so much attention from people outside the Jewish tradition? Some of the greatest thinkers in history, from Isaac Newton to modern-day philosophers, have explored Kabbalah, seeking to unlock its secrets. What if Kabbalah holds the key to understanding the spiritual and metaphysical mysteries of the universe? Could Jewish mysticism offer insights into the nature of reality itself? Kabbalah teaches that the universe is a reflection of divine emanations, and through study and meditation, one can understand the hidden aspects of existence. But here's the question: how does this mystical tradition fit into the broader Jewish worldview? Is it an alternative path to spiritual enlightenment, or is it deeply connected to the core principles of Judaism? And why has Kabbalah, with its mystical symbols and secrets, become so popular outside the Jewish community? What does it say about the universal appeal of Jewish thought? Finally, as we reflect on the influence of Judaism on the world, we must ask, what is the future of Judaism in a rapidly changing world? As Jewish communities continue to evolve, how will they preserve their ancient traditions while adapting to modern life? What role will Israel play in shaping the future of the Jewish people? And how will Jews around the world navigate the tensions between tradition and modernity? The answers to these questions will not only shape the future of Judaism, but also the future of the world's most enduring faith. What if I told you that the story of Judaism is not just a historical narrative, but a story that transcends time, influencing the very fabric of modern civilization? Judaism is often seen as a religion of ancient texts and rituals, but its impact on the modern world is undeniable. From shaping legal systems to influencing global politics, Jewish thought has left an indelible mark on history. But how did a small group of people scattered across the globe manage to have such a profound impact? The answer lies in their unique relationship with their faith, their intellectual traditions, and their unwavering commitment to their identity. The State of Israel, established in 1948, marked a pivotal moment in Jewish history. For over 2 millennia, Jews lived in exile, dispersed across the world, and faced persecution at every turn. But with the creation of Israel, Jews returned to their ancestral homeland, fulfilling a dream that had been passed down through generations. But here's the catch: Israel's establishment was not just a political event. It was a spiritual and cultural rebirth. What does Israel mean to the Jewish people, and how does it shape their identity today? Is it just a homeland, or is it the fulfillment of an ancient promise, a symbol of hope, survival, and resilience? While Israel's creation was a moment of triumph, it also brought about new challenges. The country, born out of conflict and surrounded by nations with complex political dynamics, has faced constant struggles for peace and security. But how does the Jewish faith navigate the complexities of modern geopolitics? What role does religion play in the conflict, and how does the Jewish community balance its historical and spiritual ties to the land with the realities of contemporary international relations? Could the answers to these questions provide a deeper understanding of the relationship between faith and politics in the modern world? As we look at the future of Judaism, one question stands out. How will it continue to evolve in a rapidly changing world? Today, Jews around the globe are living in increasingly diverse societies, and the way Judaism is practiced is more varied than ever. From the ultra-Orthodox communities of Jerusalem to the secular Jews in New York and Tel Aviv, there are many ways to be Jewish. How do these different expressions of Judaism coexist, and what does this diversity say about the adaptability of the Jewish faith? Is it possible for Judaism to remain both ancient and modern, rooted in tradition, while embracing the changes of the future? One of the most striking aspects of Judaism is its ability to incorporate change while staying true to its core values. Unlike some other religious traditions, Judaism has never been static. It has always been a religion in conversation, a religion of debate, discussion, and reinterpretation. The Talmud itself is a testament to this intellectual tradition, with rabbis and scholars constantly reinterpreting ancient texts in light of new challenges and circumstances. But here's an interesting question. What does this intellectual tradition tell us about the nature of Jewish faith? Is Judaism truly a religion of law, or is it more about the continual search for meaning and understanding? This intellectual tradition is perhaps best seen in the way Jews have approached the concept of suffering. For centuries, Jews have grappled with the problem of evil, why bad things happen to good people. The Holocaust, in particular, raised profound questions about God's role in human suffering. But here's a crucial point. The Jewish response to suffering isn't about accepting divine will blindly. It's about wrestling with it, questioning it, and seeking meaning within it. What does this ability to question suffering, to wrestle with it, tell us about the Jewish relationship with God? And what can we learn from this approach in the face of our own challenges? Judaism, as a religion, has always placed a premium on action. Unlike many other faiths, which focus on faith alone, Judaism is deeply embedded in the way one lives their life. The commandments, mitzvot, govern every aspect of life, from what to eat, how to pray, to how to treat others. But why is this focus on action so central to Jewish life? Could it be that Judaism teaches that holiness is found not just in words or rituals, but in the way we engage with the world around us? And what does this emphasis on action say about the Jewish vision of redemption?